Hello friends, I hope everybody's doing good. Okay, so today we have our first snowblower to work on, and this is a Craftsman. It's a 21-inch wide. It's also a 4-cycle. Now it's a paddle blower, so these paddle blowers you have to be careful with them because a lot of the older ones were 2 strokes. So if you're buying a used one, just make sure you know what you're buying. Yeah, with this 4-cycle, if you put some 2-stroke mixed gas in here, it's really not going to help it. But if you put gasoline in the 2-stroke, then you know that's trouble right there. But just always make sure when you buy it that you know what you're buying, when you're buying them even new or used. Because I think a lot of people might still take it for granted that it's a 2-stroke. And as a matter of fact, before he dropped it off and we were talking about it, I thought he said it was a 2-stroke. But okay, so to begin with, the fuel in here, you could probably even see it on camera, is starting to turn like yellow and goldish color, and it smells pretty bad. So for a change, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drain it into a clear container. He said it starts and then it stalls right out. And I'm figuring it's a dirty carb, so we'll probably be taking the carburetor off and cleaning it. So being that this is a 4-cycle, it does take engine oil. I checked the oil. The oil looks really clean. This isn't that old. The machine isn't that old. That's the problem with these snow blowers. Like if it doesn't snow for a season, it'll sit for 2 years and the gas is still in it, and then the gas goes bad. This belongs to my friend Joe. He has a snow plowing company, and in exchange for this, he's giving me 3 more paddle blowers. I think all 3 are 2-strokes, so we'll be working on them too. So in the meantime, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to drain the gas tank out into a clear container, and then I'll be right back to you. Before I do that, let's see if it will start. I'll give it some choke, and I'll prime it a little bit and see if we can get it to do anything here. Even though it's a 4-cycle, you choke it and it still has a primer here. Yeah, so that's what he said he's getting out of it. So, okay, so I'll drain the gas out and then I'll get right back to you. Okay, so you can see it already that the gas is pretty goldish and yellowish. So what I'm going to do is it's pretty much almost all drained out right now, and I'm going to let the gas settle and see if it has any water or any different that. But the gas is bad though. There's no question about that. So I'm probably next going to go ahead and pull the carburetor off, and we'll take the carburetor apart and see what we got going on inside the carburetor. So the gas is dead. There's not even an odor to it. It doesn't even smell like gasoline. So I don't know how long this sat around, but I know it snowed last February, and I don't know. I forgot to ask him if he used it then or it didn't run. I didn't ask him. So all right, so let's go ahead and we'll pull the carburetor off and see what we got going in there. Okay, so I think you could pretty much see what's going on here. I'll be using a 10mm socket. There's 2 nuts here to take this cover off, which are the mounting nuts for the carburetor itself. Like I said, everything's 10mm. What I normally like to do, if you gain access, sometimes the carburetor bowl retaining bolt here, they're hard to get off, but this one's pretty easy. But if I can, I usually just loosen them while it's still on the machine, because as you guys know, some of these could be really tough to get apart. But being that this thing is pretty much new, it shouldn't be that much of a problem. And then we have this the primer hose here. We're going to be removing that too. So I'm just going to give it a twist with the needle nose here. just pop that off. Let me see how that runs, so when we put it back together. Yeah, the hose runs up in between this cover and then up to the primer bulb. Let's see. Okay. Alright, so we'll run these two nuts off here. Okay, so we have this cover off here, and you put this off to the side, and then we have another gasket that has to go on first before you put the cover back on, and it can only go on one way. You just have to make sure the hole in the gasket here is lined up with the hole in the carburetor here. It's fairly simple, self-explanatory. Okay, so we have the linkage here. And then we have a spring. I don't know if you can see anything that's going on here. Let me show you. Okay, so here you have the governor rod that hooks up to the top of the throttle here, and then there's a little spring here we have to take off, and then we'll be able to pull the carburetor off and dismantle the carburetor, and then we'll see what's going on in there. Okay, so I'm having a little trouble getting the base gasket off here, but I'm going to just try to be as careful as possible here, not to tear it doing this. I mean, I could do the thing with the WD-40 and get it off, but today's Sunday and I don't want to risk breaking anything because everybody's closed today. Okay, so we have this base idle screw here that I have to take out because this does have the main jet in here, which we will be taking out. We're going to clean that out thoroughly also. So I'm going to count and see how many turns this thing goes in. Half, 1, 2, about 2.5. Yeah, they usually range from 2 to 2.5 as far as that part goes. So we'll take this out here. And then we're going to take a screwdriver and pop this out over here. That's our main jet. Or not the main jet, it's the idle jet in here. Okay, so there's a couple of ports. There's one port here, and then there's two here to go through. So we're going to make sure they're really clean. I think the biggest problem with this was bad gas, but once bad gas gets into the carburetor, you do want to take it apart and clean it. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, so now we can take the bowl off. I already loosened this, as you saw, so just take this off here and try to not to break any gaskets or anything. The gasket on here, the retainer bolt, is good, so we don't have to worry about that. And this just popped right off with no problem. And besides some staining in here, it's not that bad. So I'm going to clean this out real good. What else I intend to do is I'm going to put some fresh gas in the gas tank and slosh it around a little bit. And this way I can clean the gas tank out some. Okay, now we're going to take our pin out that holds the float in. It's pulling right out. Like I said, this thing's fairly new, so. And then we'll pull this. The needle came out pretty hard, so I don't know if the needle was sticking in there or what. But we're going to clean all this up. And what I'll be using is WD-40 to clean this all out. Another thing I showed you how to take off the governor rod. So when I started pulling this off the studs, it just lifts right out. There's like a notch in here. And you could lift the rod right out. And then I just took a needle nose pliers and popped the governor spring off. It goes to that. So that's not a big deal there. Let's see what we have as far as the motion tube in here. Okay, so we're going to want to get that out. And I'll try this little screwdriver first here, which I'm not really liking already. I'm not liking the way that feels. It's going little by little. Oh, I got lucky. Here it comes. It's coming out. We definitely want to take that out and clean that as well. Okay, here it came out. Okay, so we want to clean this jet out thoroughly. I'm going to go get my torch tip cleaner, and we're going to be cleaning that all out. And then it's got, I'm not going to stand here and count them now. It's got a whole bunch of holes that have to be cleaned out in the emulsion tube here. And real little ones too. I'm sorry. Real little holes too in here. So I'm probably going to have to use my bread tie to clean all those ports out. And we want to make sure everything's clean. The problem is probably here, in here. Once that gas gets bad and starts getting a little gummy, the first thing it wants to do is it wants to clog these little ports up because they're so small here. So, okay, so I'm going to start cleaning. And I'll be back to you. Okay, so the emulsion tube was a little bit of a pain to clean out, as they always are. So what you want to do is you just want to take your WD and just spray through every hole you see. So I'm spraying through this hole, and now it's coming out where the emulsion tube goes here. That's nothing there. Right here. There's another one. Some of these ports only go one way. Just spray every hole you could find. And then where we took the, let me move this choke. Where the heck is that now? Where we took that main jet out, you want to spray in there to make sure you have it running out of one of these ports here. It's not the main jet, I keep calling it, that's the idle jet. I have to yell at myself. Probably can't see what I'm doing. I'm spraying the camera and everything else here. Just spray every port that you see. And now we'll get back to putting it back together again. They were talking about it on live streams. Like some people say, oh yeah, doing the carburetors is so easy to film. Not for me. Not for me. I have nothing but trouble. I'm in the camera. I'm not in the camera. It's like crazy for me. Okay, so I have every port cleaned out here. And like I said, the biggest problem here was You probably won't see any daylight because I'm out of the daylight because I really couldn't film this and show you. But all these little holes in here, some of them were really blocked up. And then what I did was I held my finger over one end, and then I sprayed through here, and then I saw it was coming out of all the ports in here, and that's what you want. So let me set the camera back up over here, and then we'll put it back together again. I think that'd be good there, the camera. Who the heck knows, man? I can't stand doing these carburetors. I don't mind doing the carburetor. It's just filming. I have a really hard time, you know? Let me move the camera closer here. This is going to be like a comedy hour video here, I think. All right, so I think we were working on the generator that time. And I started putting it together, and I forgot to put the emulsion tube in. So today we're just going to do that first, so we don't have any problems. And then you're just going to drop the tube in there. It only goes one way. Okay, and then we're going to take our retainer here, and we're going to drop that in and tighten it up. You don't have to go crazy tightening these up. As soon as it bottoms out, that's it, you're done. And that's it. I'm satisfied with that. And now we'll just take this. I was gonna say main jet again. Somebody come across the camera and hit me. Okay, so now we're gonna put this idle jet in. Drop that down in here. It's not dropping in there too good. What the heck am I doing wrong here? Let me get right back to you. That doesn't feel right. Okay, I just had to press it down with my thumb a little bit. And now I put the idle screw in. And I screwed it all the way in and backed it out like 2.5. I think I could pretty much gain access to this if we have to adjust that. Okay, so now we're up to the point where I could put the float back in. So this has one of those needles in here where it's like pushed into the float, and the seat is actually on the needle here, so it doesn't have the rubber seat that goes into the carburetor there. So this is in there real good. This is all cleaned up. I cleaned it up real good. And it goes in and out, you know, pretty good, as it should. I can lift it out. And then we'll just give it the suction blow test here after I get this together. So it's working pretty good. Good. That's good. Now we can put the bowl back on. Okay, so the carburetor's on the machine this way. So I'm going to want that drain plug as it was. There's a drain in this here. I'm going to want to face this out. like right about here. So if you want to drain the gas out here, even if you drain the gas out of this here, still gas laying in the bottom. So, but I'll put it where it should, where it belongs. And I'll set the camera back up, and we'll put this thing back on and see how it runs. I'll just take my ratchet, just make sure this is tight, and I'll be back to you. Okay, so for me, I can't really show you anything of, hooking up the spring and the governor linkage to the throttle here. But for me, I always hook up the spring first, and then I had the carburetor like halfway out, and then I was able to drop the governor linkage on there. And then once you push this in there, the linkage is covered, so the linkage can't fall back out again on you. So, okay, so I was calling this a primer. It's actually a purge. It's not built into the carburetor, so it's actually a purge bulb. So I hooked up that line here, and now what we're going to do is put this gasket back on. Like I told you, it only goes one way, so we're going to stick that back on. I took care of the gas tank. So now we can hook up our fuel line here. What I'll do is I'll put a little bit of gas in here, and I'm just going to put a little bit of gas in here, and I'll put some sea foam in. I'm just going to let this run till it runs out of gas in case he doesn't use it anymore. And what I normally do is when it starts running out of gas, I choke it, and it sucks even more gas out. But yeah, that's it. So we'll just continue doing this for now. I think I can just get the needle in those pliers here. We put our clamp back on. Put our cover back on. I think I got the choke lever a little bit to get these in. And just line up the holes. Push it back on. Here we have the two nuts here. See now that gas plug that I was telling you about in the bowl? You gain access to this, you have to. If it was behind here, then you can't, So you want to try line that up to where you can get to it again. We just snap these up like this. Then as I said before, we're going to tighten up the bolt here. Tighten that up, tighten these two up, then I'll put a little gas in it, we'll fire it up and see how it does. Okay, so I put a little bit of gas in it. Now we'll throw a little sea foam. I just put like 2 of these capfuls in. I didn't put much gas in it because I'm going to let it run off camera, and I'm going to run it out of gas in case it doesn't snow this year. So far nothing's leaking, so that's a good sign. make sure the camera's still running. Yeah, it is. Alright, so I choked it. I guess we'll give it a couple of primes. And we'll see what happens. Nothing's happening. Could choke off maybe. It's a little flooded, I guess, from working on the carburetor. The auger was a little stuck too. I'm going to pull the inspection cover off, not on camera, make sure the belt's alright and everything. So let's see how it starts now again. It does have a little surge, slight, but at least it runs, and the seafoam has to run through that. And the main thing to remember with these paddle blowers is make sure you know if it's a 2-stroke or a 4-cycle. 2-cycle or 4-cycle. And I hope this helps somebody out. Winter is coming, so if you guys are out there looking for snow blowers, you're probably going to end up, you know, if you get a snowblower for a good price, you're probably going to end up doing that with the carburetor. Definitely. The spark plug was not easy access, but like I said, there's hardly any hours on this machine. The spark plug should be fine. These don't require an air filter, so there's no air filter element that you have to worry about. And that'll be it on this video. And I want to thank everybody for watching. And I'll see you all on the next one. And stay safe.